First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakha Kudash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And yeah, it's happening. All right. And I saw this article, you know, every morning when I wake up, I try to go through these different sites and read through, what's going on, what are the new events that are taking place. And I saw this article here on rtnews.com. Now, when I saw this, I had taken it down in my notes. I said, all right, Lowell, and I'll do a video on it. And then later on in the day, all right, in the morning, I saw another article, which was this, or another headline, which said the IMF chief warns global recession risks rising, urges policy action. Okay, and then the title came to me as to what I'm titling this video. Being that it's happening and yet no one sees it. Okay, because we've been talking about this place, an economic collapse coming, and the transition and the global reset and the fourth industrial revolution and all of these things. And here it is actually taking place before our eyes. And when I say no one sees it, I'm not referring to those of us who are aware and awake and in the know. I'm referring to the regular, average citizen that is walking about day to day, and they can sense to an extent that things are getting harder, but they're just like the frog, the boiling frog. The frog right now, they are the frog that is in the pot of boiling water, and the water, we can see these elites turning up the heat on the pot, on the stove, and they are in the pot, but it's being turned up so slowly that it feels normal. Each time the heat goes up, they adjust to it, and then they become normal with it again. And here we are, we can see how it went from low to medium to now is going on high, and yet these frogs are still up in the pot. Okay? So we can see what's going on. Literally, they're warning you and warning you, and we're warning you. We've been warning you for years. Okay, but if you've been paying attention to the trend, you'll see that they're openly warning you. Whilst we were warning you years and years and years ahead, but now you have to ask yourself, they knew years ahead this was coming. They planned it. Why are they now sounding the alarm bells and warning you? Because now they can no longer keep it under wraps. Now it has to come out. And these warnings are not just your average everyday to day warnings. Okay, but yet people are still, and that's why the scriptures say that this is going to be like sudden destruction. Sudden because, I mean, if you've been paying attention, it's not sudden because you can see the trend, you can see it getting to the boiling point. But for those that have not been paying attention, it will hit them suddenly. It'll be almost like it came out of nowhere. Now, before I read this, I want to read this quick precept. This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 60, verse 2. It says, For behold, the darkness shall cover the earth, and gross darkness the people. But the Lord Yahweh shall arise upon thee, and his glory shall be seen upon thee. Now, applying this in this context, the darkness here representing the mind state, the ignorance, the sleep, right? Because usually when you go to sleep, what do? You turn off the lights, right? You sleep in darkness. You don't leave your lights on when you go to sleep. You turn off the lights, okay? And so these people are in that gross darkness. It has covered them. It has put them to sleep, and they're so far gone that with all of these things going on, people are walking around like it's normal. They don't realize that there's a time, the clock is ticking, and they are running out of time. And it's only a matter of time before this thing collapses. They're warning you of your recession, they're warning you of these things, but a collapse is really what's coming. All right. And when something collapses, it just drops. Like if you see somebody, right, and they have signs of faintness and weakness and lightheadedness, those are the indicators. But then all of a sudden they just drop to the floor. That's the big commotion. That's, oh shoot, what's going on? What happened? Are you okay? What? And if you weren't paying attention, if you were watching that person, you would have seen that they're about to collapse. But if you weren't, all you would have seen is just somebody just drop next to you, and you're like, oh, whoa, what happened? And that's what's about to happen. These people are not paying attention. They're not clearly they've been blinded so far. These elites are literally having a field day with these people because they're like, hold on a second, we're literally transitioning the world, and these people are just here. But anyway, it says UN issues dire warning on world economy. World economy. There is a high risk of a global recession due to central banks' anti-inflationary measures, a statement says. And you see how they set themselves up nicely and perfectly, make it seem as though the central banks are doing this. But first off, this happened because you allowed inflation to go up to this point where you can be justified in saying, oh, now we have to raise interest rates. We have to, hike these rates, okay, in order to combat this inflation and bring it down. And in hiking these rates, you know that this is going to be a outcome. High unemployment and recession and possible depression. But now the central banks can make the claim that, well, if we don't do this, we're going to be dealing with hyperinflation. So how do you want your economy to die? Inflation, depression, recession, hyperinflation, what you want? You see? And in either case, if the Fed say we're just going to stop hiking these rates and let inflation go up, you have a problem on your hands. And if they say no, we're going to continue, you have a problem on your hands. So either way, you have an economic problem on your hands that can very well collapse the economy, and that's all they need. Okay? So it says here, the world is on the edge of a recession. The United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, or UNCTAD, warned on Monday in its report, citing aggressive monetary policies in advanced economies. According to the report, higher interest rates, including hikes by the U.S. Federal Reserve, could trigger an economic downturn even worse than the 2008 recession. Of course, it'll be much worse. The economy is not in a remotely good position right now to even try to endure something like this. All regions will be affected, but alarm bells are ringing most for developing countries, many of which are edging closer to debt default, the report stated. East and Southeast Asia are reportedly set to post growth rates below those in the 5 years prior to the pandemic. Okay? The agency pointed out basically the post is after, right? So after growth rates, if you compare what they're estimating now to what happened 5 years prior to the pandemic, these rates don't even compare close to that. These are going to be much lower. Okay, it says the agency pointed out that this year's interest rate hikes in the U.S. will cut an estimated $360 billion in future income for developing nations, excluding China. We still have time to step back from the edge of recession. Nothing is inevitable. We must change course. Now, but what are you going to change course to? Right? Now, are you going to let the economy collapse and then come and say, now we have a way to fix this, or a new way out? Or are they going to push this to the brink of collapse and say, hey, if we don't switch to this new digital way, this thing is going to collapse. This global economy is going to collapse, and it's going to be all out anarchy and turmoil. Well, we got to watch and see. It says overall, UNCTAD downgraded its 2022 global growth projection to 2.5% from 2.6% estimated in its March assessment. Once again, as I always say, that was in March, it was 2.6, but as time moves on and you see how as more things turn out and as things play out more, that percentage gets revised. So they can tell you, hey, things are bad now, but there's no guarantee that next month they're going to come and tell you things are bad. They might come and tell you things are worse. And then the next month, oh, things are very, very bad, So it's constantly changing, but for the worse. The agency expects growth of 2.2% next year. See how it's dropping? Last month, the IMF also warned that some countries, wow, now this was last month, right? Last month, the IMF also warned that some countries may slip into recession in 2023 and revised its growth forecast downwards. This was last month, right? Now let's see what's happening today. IMF chief warns global recession risks rising, urges policy action. So last month the IMF warned is looking like in 2023 you might have some countries into a recession. Now, as things are getting worse, they came out again and said that the risks of a global recession are rising. And yet people are still walking about like everything is all sweet. They don't see that something is coming. They think everything is just, oh yeah, it is what it is. Eventually things will settle down. No, things will not settle down. You have no idea what's coming your way. And then that's why when they get hit, they're going to completely lose it. It says IMF chief Kristalina Georgieva urged policymakers Thursday to take concerted action to avoid a dangerous new normal as the risks of a worldwide recession are driven higher by repeated shocks to the global economy. Now, these concerted actions, these new policies that they'd have to put in place, we don't know what those will look like, but I'm pretty sure if they do put stuff in place, there will definitely be things that support a reset, or a new push towards the digital era. It says it is critical to stabilize the global economy by addressing the most immediate challenges, including fighting inflation, Georgieva said in a speech ahead of the IMF annual meetings next week. Now, how are you supposed to fight inflation if the Fed is saying that the one way to do it is by tightening monetary policies by hiking interest rates, but then the UN is saying you need to stop. So it says, but she also warned the process could be painful and that if central banks move too aggressively to tamp down price pressures, it could trigger a prolonged economic downturn. You see how either way it goes, it's in the negative direction. And when this thing just completely gets out of hand, people are going to lose their minds. You're not going to want to be around people in the world because they're going to lose their minds. This is the book of Luke, chapter 17, verse 26. The real life purge is much more violent than the purge you see in the movies. Okay? It says, because in the movies, there's only so much they can show on camera. There's only so much they can write in a script and actors are willing to act out certain scenes. There's only so much they can do. In real life, there is no limitation on that. So Luke 17 and 26, and as it was in the days of Noah, which is Noah, so shall it be in the days of the Son of Man. So these are the days where Yahushua is going to make his return, the end of the world. So what's in common between the two of them? We're about to read verse 27. They did eat, they drank, they married wives, they were given in marriage until the day that Noah entered into the ark, and the flood came and destroyed them all. Meaning that it's not bad to eat or drink and marry and all of that. The problem was that as Noah was warning them of what was to come, they continued to live their regular lives as though nothing was coming. They continued to live in ignorance until the day that Noah entered into the ark and the flood came and destroyed them all. So they didn't take heed to the warning. Instead, they just continued to live their lives as if everything was good. And that's the same thing happening now. We are warning them. We are in the stead of Noah, building the ark and warning these people of what's to come. And yet they continue to live their regular lives in wickedness. And they decide not to repent, not to prepare themselves, but to continue to do whatever they want to do. So when all hell breaks loose and their lives get turned around in an instant, and they start seeing loved ones die, and they start being put in life-threatening situations, and things get very, very difficult and they don't know what to do, then they're going to want to seek help. But it's going to be too late. No help is going to be offered at that point. Verse 28, it says, likewise also as it was in the days of Lot, they did eat, they drank, they bought, they sold, they planted, they builded. But the same day that Lot went out of Sodom, it rained fire and brimstone from heaven and destroyed them all. So that is that sudden destruction, because it seems like a regular day. Every people are still going about, they're still marrying, they still doing their regular stuff. And then on all of a sudden, on the same day Lot leaves, fire and brimstone destroys that whole place. So imagine what the inhabitants of Sodom and Gomorrah, in those neighboring cities, what it was like for them. Sudden, right? Where you wake up, you're doing your regular stuff you do every day, and then all of a sudden your shit getting destroyed by fire and brimstone, right? And same thing with Noah. As he's warning them, everybody just they doing it's like a regular day, and all of a sudden you start feeling these light taps of water on you. What the hell is going on? Oh, and then it's over for your ass. Verse 30. Even thus shall it be in the days when the Son of Man is revealed. Right? So guess what? In that time, when it's gonna be like everybody's doing whatever they're doing, whatever condition is in, you're still gonna have people buying and selling and trying to live normal lives, and then boom, whether it be the destruction or it be the appearance of Yahweh Shai, people are gonna be taken in shock and in surprise. But we are not, because we're gonna be expecting the return of the Lord, hastening the day of the coming of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai. All right. So with that, I'm going to end it here. Lord willing, that was edifying and informative onto the elect. I will leave the articles in the description box so you can get access to them. And in closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Ruach HaKodesh. Until next time, Shalom.